Sensei, may I please have my grade on the Koseki project? For a change, I had worked really hard on this week's homework assignment. I wanted to hear what she thought of my ancestors from the Sugawara clan, who fought in the famous Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. Papa, Mama, and I were the last branch of the family tree. I had also added that my papa worked his way up to owning his own newspaper in Hiroshima after being raised on a corn farm. If Sensei praised my project while my classmates were still in the room, and if they overheard that, maybe they'd find me interesting enough to be their friend. Sensei pulled out my Koseki project from a folder on her desk.
She nodded as she began reading about each ancestor.
But then she raised her eyebrows and slowly moved her head from side to side. She bit her lower lip and said slowly, "That is not right." My smile disappeared. This was not the response I had expected. I almost blurted out the arigato I had planned, but instead, I stared at her. My cheeks were burning and I knew they were as red as the sun on Japan's flag. My fist tapped against the side of my legs. The room was unbearably silent. The students who had not yet left the classroom had their eyes trained on me. I knew they were listening and that this was my chance to impress them, so I cleared my throat a few times, hoping it would help push my words out. "What do you mean?" My voice made a funny squeaking sound on the last word. At that moment, I wished I had flown away with the bee-sans. My teacher stared at me. She gave me a quick, weak smile, and then stood abruptly. "I'm sorry. This is a wonderful project. Please excuse me. I am late for a meeting and must leave right away." She hurried out the door. I was stunned at her response. The rest of my classmates who had witnessed the scene quickly filed out of the room. I went to my desk to gather my things so I could run after Sensei. But as I lifted the books from my desk, my hands fumbled and all the books fell to the floor. "Yuriko dojiko," echoed in my head. I picked them up. By the time I left the room, my teacher was nowhere to be found, so all I could do was head home. On my walk, I kept repeating Sensei's words to myself. "That is not right. That is not right." The more I thought about it, the faster I walked, until I found my legs running toward home. I went around to the side entrance of my house, sliding the shoji door open and shut with the stealth of a ninja. I braced myself against the door, trying to catch my breath. When I could finally breathe normally, I kicked off my shoes, sank into the Western-style wicker chair, and sighed. The study was my favorite room in the house. It was where I went to be by myself. All along the walls were mahogany bookcases filled with books whose characters were my first friends. It didn't matter if the books were children's adventure stories, history books about our samurai ancestors, or reference texts for my papa's newspaper articles. I loved reading them all. Sitting in there with a book on my lap, I was able to forget about being lonely and about the war. But today, I couldn't concentrate on the words and sat fidgeting in my chair, my brain racing. My foot tapped the floor uncontrollably. In my head, I still heard my teacher reviewing my Koseki project. Her 4 words about the family tree, "That is not right," played over and over in my head like the drip, drip, drip of water hitting pebbles in our fountain. What wasn't right about the tree? There had been whispers about my parents behind my back, I knew that, but I never let it bother me as Papa had always said that people gossiped about our family because of our wealth and the fact that he ran his own newspaper.
Whenever I questioned him about it,
he told me that we were expected to be above gossip and to ignore any rumors. I never gave it a second thought, until now. But this was the first time someone had said something directly to me. Why did Sensei leave so quickly? Why did she change her answer? Why does she nod in agreement and then suddenly say what she said? "Joya, young lady, are you here?" My papa's booming voice called out. He slid the door open and I jumped out of my chair into his outstretched arms. "Welcome home, Papa!" Even when I was only as tall as his knees against his 6-foot frame, Papa would